So my name is Kris. I am a state outreach coordinator for NRCS Washington, out of the Spokane Valley office. So thank you for everybody for being here. There's some familiar faces. So we have seen them on Zoom. I've probably seen them at events. So look forward to meeting everybody. We've got some business cards. I'm going to take those. And definitely reach out to me anytime if you have any questions or if there's opportunities for us to partner and work together. So here's an agenda. So I'm used to this. I've PowerPoint slides for 20 plus years. I always have to have an agenda. We'll follow it loosely. Okay, so a little bit about me. So I just retired in 2020 from the Army after over 20 years. I was enlisted initially, was a intel analyst and Russian linguist. Say what is it? When you talk funny, you're not from around here. So I'm from North Carolina, so I do have an accent. So is anybody from the South? Okay. Tennessee for a while. Tennessee for a while. Okay, so you're going to be the translator in case we have any communication issues. So I went to military academy, commissioned there. I spent some time in some armor and cavalry units. So that's tank, Bradleys. You're like, you fit the tank. Tank's okay, Bradley not so much. They're smart enough. It's like, you know what? I have this human regional geography degree. I can speak a second language. It's like I need to do something. We're not on the tank all the time. So this new branch in the Army became an active duty branch called Civil Affairs. So I signed up, got accepted, and that's what I made the switch about halfway through my career. So Civil Affairs, it's kind of funny when I look at the job description for this position. A lot of the duties, it's what I've done multiple times, doing deployments or when I stationed stateside. What position I was assigned at that time. So okay, I've done all that. Outreach coordinator makes sense. So ironically, military, Army specifically, calls outreach engagement. So that photo there, I picked that photo because that was probably my most successful engagement with my team in Afghanistan. So basically, I had a village up to the south of our southern part of our operations area, and we really didn't do too many patrols through there because it was a kind of a Taliban checkpoint. They would come there, stay overnight, and bypass, go out in the desert, bypass our entire area and our security apparatus, and then keep going north in Iraq. So they're coming from Helmand, which is a hotbed for Taliban. So I talked to the special forces team leader. I say, Scott, I was like, I'm gonna go down there, do some engagement with the leaders down there, see if we can establish a Afghan local police checkpoint, see if they have any needs, maybe see if we can bring some Afghan ministry support down there. So that's what I did. So a lot of stuff's going on that's not in the picture. There's a helicopter flying above. I got security elements out. But the guy in the white beard, he's the elder of my interpreter to my left, and then the elder son is right there. And just tell this was important. So I met with him, talked to him, say, what do you need? So long story short, that engagement, we ended up establishing a checkpoint for Afghan local police. They need a tractor. They had a lot of fields to till. They had one like ox to till it. So okay, I can get you a tractor because we had a program. We had some farm machinery. They needed a schoolhouse. So they had a teacher, a schoolhouse. Ministry of Education never came down, so I brought some representatives from Afghan District Ministry of Education. They're also kind of isolated. They're southern tip, middle of nowhere, high mountain desert. Food's kind of issue. So worked with the World Food Program, brought food in, and also Ministry of Health. There's a measles outbreak just north of there. So I thought, hey, this measles is coming towards you. We did some vaccinations for some other Afghans. So we did that. The other thing, fast forward probably about 3 or 4 weeks from that meeting, the son came to visit me at 2 in the morning. So I knocked on my door. I was like, hey, there's an Afghan here to talk to you. I'm like, what's going on? So we went and talked to him. So long story short on that one, his cousin ended up being the #2 Taliban bad guy on our list for all of Iraq. So I just pointed this out, and this picture's, use this to say, hey, outreach is important. It's resource intensive, but if you do it right, it can be highly effective. So I think I'm doing it right now. I think NRCS is doing it right. So I'm going to show you some information there. So what we're doing, kind of way ahead also. So a little more about me. I live in Portland, so with the family there. Right before I retired in 2019, thought I was going to go work in the Forest Service or go to project management, and then COVID hit. So I was hiring, what was going on. So if you've ever been a supervisor or manager of one person, you've done HR. So I did HR for a nonprofit, about 2 years in the house. So I could facilitate e-school for the kids. And the reason we moved there for Forest Service, I love the great outdoors. So we did a lot of hiking, camping, mountain biking, triathlons. So it was the right place for me to be. I love mountains. I love mild summers, humidity. So that's why I defected North Carolina. Moved to Little place. Most of my time right now is spent in Little League baseball for my son, and then my daughter does theater. So I have some dad jokes. They might come out. I don't name them. They just come to me. So bear with me when I do have those. You might think they're funny. My kids. Okay. Purpose. Give you a little bit of overview of what we're doing. Some of our, I'm going to air some dirty laundry. You see some skeletons in our closet. That's okay. We're going to be open and honest about it, transparent. Talk about some things I've learned doing outreach for NRCS in the state. Share some of the resources and best practice. All right. So at one time, briefly, for a couple of weeks, about a month ago, we were about 4 strong. Right now, it's just Nick Gallan, who's the state public affairs specialist, and myself. We did have a public affairs specialist who was doing organizational communications. He resigned 2 weeks ago. And we had an administrative support assistant, general clerk that's helping really me get ready for events and some other admin tasks. So she's terminated, so we're down to 2. But some other things around those positions are posted. So I'm not going to advertise any hiring. So I think those positions will be filled probably in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, as well as the admin support, which is a contract position. The other outreach specialist. So when I started, I didn't realize that even though this much outreach, demand's gone up. I have about at capacity. So I'm supposed to be doing some of the strategic planning for outreach, which I am. But for events, it takes a lot of time to do the planning, the coordination, get the funding coordinated, and then get the materials ready, packaged, shipped off, and then it's a constant churn. So some of the other areas, the district conservation specialists, it'd be awesome if we had an area outreach coordinator or district outreach coordinator. So right now, Nate's working on this, but each area conservationist is willing to be partly funded by dairy fed, wheat, dairy, weeds, cattle goods. Okay, and there are part-time for those organizations and another time for us. So we understand that's going to work out, but it's going to increase our capacity. The other thing is those outreach coordinators, we're hoping to come from those communities and also come from those organizations. So they'll bring their networks. So it'll help streamline things, get some efficiency for us, have those networks there. And then where we need help in those areas, we'll be good. So they're doing 50% of NRCS. All right, so these are our mission areas. So I'm the outreach guy, obviously, and then organization communications. So that is really a lot of internal communications. We have a weekly newsletter. We have a lot of, there's a list, but we probably have 200 different resources like fact sheets, booklets, flyers, you name it. So there's a lot of stuff, but sometimes there's like flyers or fact sheets that we need at short notice. Needs to be catered specifically for Washington State, NRCS, and not for national. So that person, so right now we do that, and I'm very careful because I'd love to have a specific Washington flyer for every program, everything we're doing. It's not really feasible because me Nate right now. So I'm really careful how I do that. But once we have that a specialty board, we'll be able to help produce these products. Media relations. So that's more our external, some marketing tasks would be associated with that position as well. And then crisis communication, that's if there's emergencies. If something happens, it could be a natural disaster, it could be, I use an FSA, for example, discrimination or lawsuits, which would be happening that with our agency, obviously it's part of our crisis communication. Okay, this is kind of where I was talking about earlier about area dirty laundry. It's our 4 card. So good news is we're doing really well in outreach. So one way we look at outreach is that it's essentially, hey, we're going to go to events and that's it. Purpose of doing events, or you're just talking to people, it's building those relationships. And we get more of that too, the education part that's going forward. People that's working with the same objectives on that. But those relationships are important for our stakeholders. Those are people that we already have relationships with, we're working with, our partners, they're our customers, farmers, our ranchers, landowners, that's our stake seekers. It's kind of a new word for me, but Nate does a lot of organizational leadership type of meetings and trainings. So those are people who should be our partners, should work with us. They could be landowners that don't know who NRCS is. So we want to work to reach those goals. Okay. The other thing about my position, I think this morning, anybody, the coffee with Chief New Orleans, anybody there? No? Okay. Okay. So you know what I'm talking about. So he mentioned that there is a state outreach coordinator position for every state. So that was created really in response to some of the discriminatory practices in FSA. So the focus of that position is to help deliver conservation to the communities. So we're doing that. But each state does things a little bit different. So we're organized. I think we're the best organizational structure I can think of. Some states, my counterparts report directly to the state conservationists. Other states, they report directly to the assistant conservationists for programs. Like some states, they work for the partnership liaison. So it's different for each state. I think each state's trying to figure it out, and it's just really based on how that state's is structured. Okay, organizational communication. Okay, so we lost our Adrian, who's our affairs specialist. So we are hiring, we're still functioning this mission area. So I think one area, we have the software computer system, do more broadcasting from photography. That's normally print, like video. We just need more staff, so that we can shoot the video. So I think this person, can be the pants or go to staff, and they can write stories and articles. And so we're going to amplify what we're doing, conservation, highlight producers, get a good word out there. So we're getting there. So we're moderate, so not bad, but could be worse. Okay. Now we're at the worst, the media relations. Realize we need this position just because of all the work that we're doing, the outreach. And the state's big, it's very diverse, a lot going on. So we need some media relations person to help us. What about marketing? I mentioned marketing when I first came on board. I was like, that's like we need to do more marketing. We're a government agency, we don't need to do marketing. So we do because our hiring isn't too great. I'll get more of that in a moment. And then I go to events and there's a lot of producers. I'm just shocked, like, you don't know about us. So having someone focus externally as a media specialist will help. Right? Push that. Social media, but if you guys know, may not know, we're kind of limited in social media. I am not a big fan of social media just because of my experience in the military. It's got value though. So really, only thing we really do is Twitter, Flickr, and YouTube. So I repost things sometimes on LinkedIn, but there again, most of the producers and editors on there probably not. It's the right platform, you know. So one thing Nate mentions that if there's opportunities, you know, to use your social media platforms to help pursue our communications, those, you know, and vice versa. Crisis communication. I mentioned that earlier. If there was a disaster that would occur or something, we're reactionary, I suppose. So we would get. So we just don't have our processes developed. Our standard operating procedures to address this. And once our staff is there, then we can focus on that. Okay, so I mentioned earlier, some states they're organized differently. So the way we're organized is that the public affairs apparatus, it's all these mission areas, we're all working together. I'm really excited. Hopefully, the outreach coordinators for their areas will come on board soon. I think by doing it this way, we've noticed just communicating with some of our states or counterparts, there's some silos. So I think we're organized, we need to get those silos or those stick pipes. Now I'm going to transition to all outreach. That was the communications part. Okay, so this slide should be titled, "Why does everybody know about us?" Before I had the military, I worked at Fort Drum and worked with the cultural resources manager for installation. She actually the first person told me about NRCS. I was like, yeah, you should look at them, they're in every county. So I saw the job out, okay, like great, they're in every county. When I go to events, everybody's going to know about us. They don't. So I tell staff that should be a talking point for different areas, not only programs, different careers. Like we have an office in every state. Now I think conservation districts are pretty much private office in every county, almost. So we're closely, similar. So so it's the best talk point. We just got to get out. So why don't people know about us? Well, guess what? NRCS, from my history, from our assistance economic programs, Keith Griswold, he said we haven't had somebody do outreach in state for at least 15 years. Okay. Now, I think locally, the field offices, teams are doing outreach. So right now, we're getting most of their input and what they're doing. Every now and then I miss something, they forget, or they think, I should be tracking it. But it's kind of interesting. So when I leave this job in 10, 15, 20 years, I'm hoping everybody as NRCS and also conservation districts as well. And they're sick of us. Well, yeah, I know they do. No, so we're getting there. Okay, so some of my duties and responsibilities: strategic planning, development of our outreach calendar. I did logistics and the resourcing for events. So imagine if somebody did all of your paperwork, the funding, the restoration, you put together materials, sometimes set up your booth, and all you have to do is show up to the event. That's what I do. It's really me and some other folks too in the background. And we do that because I know that the staff statewide, they're busy. So they shouldn't have to create a page. They shouldn't have to order it. Now it takes some time. Sometimes you get busy, you forget to follow up. So it's constant churning. It's like get the washing machine, things like that. Do a little bit of this work in this event, and get some work in this event. But it is about logistical support, so they're not worried about it. So they can focus on the job, which is how their conservation, right? So, and then we mentioned earlier, diverse communities. And that's a hard one to some degree. There's some of our leadership, okay, we have 30% of the African American population of Washington State. So our country's like, well, wait a minute, that's not accurate. That's the population. That's not farmers and ranchers, landowners, not forest or habitat. So we're working on that. But I do have some specific survey I use to help track that, and I'm constantly networking, telling staff, it's like you got to network too, to identify opportunities. And if if you're worried about overwhelming yourself with working outreach, like let me know who the people. I'll work with them, and then just start a dialogue and identify areas where we can help reach certain underserved communities. Okay, so this is kind of a snapshot of events that we've done. So last fiscal year, 26 events. So I joined the team in February. So by October 1st, 26 events. So as of today, we're at 100. So that's 74 complete events, 24 that are confirmed. So registration's complete. You get an idea of our staffing. Everything's locked and we're ready to go. Those events. And then I have about 50 events that are in some phase of coordination, at least been identified and considered example. Right now, I'm getting about 2 to 5 events from staff. And hey, there's some more small events, and me personally, I think the smaller events are the most important, most critical. I think they're more important than the bigger conferences, the regional level or state level, because that's where your producers are going to be. They're also going to be your producers that are in your community, the field office. So you start building those relationships, get information out there, and get them signed up. So we do liberal conservation. Okay, so this is some data I collected from the Pacific survey, and this is one of the questions on there. There's some demographic information. So we see in the first quarter and second quarter, some things stay the same, decline in some areas, some things increased. Take that with a grain of salt, because there may be some events that may have, maybe more tribal events in one quarter than another, or there might be some events that there's some of the state events that like a Spanish language session. So that's going to bump up those numbers if that's in one quarter. So it's not where you're not trying to reach certain communities. It's just the day. So I don't get too wrapped up in the statistics and data. You like to report it. I got data goes up to Orlean, actually goes up to Chief Cosby. So he sees it. But there again, it's going to give us a snapshot. Hey, what are we seeing? We go. All right, so this is our data from our dashboard for contracts. Look at it. We've increased certain contracts in 2019, 2023, which is good. Now, before I pass up on back, okay, a couple things going on. COVID. So, COVID impact our contracts, maybe not. But I'm happy as long as our neighbors at least stay the same or they increase. And the bottom there, is everybody familiar with the term Mr. Pointer Served or NRCS? Okay, so that's our limited resource farmers and ranchers. That's really based on income, socially disadvantaged. That's where our minority demographics are. Beginning farmers and ranchers. So that's our new farmer category, and veteran farmer or rancher. So the thing about veteran farmer rancher, it's kind of interesting, is you're only in that veteran status after 10 years after you charge. Was at an agribility conference that came up, and there's some people who it's class to hear that. So I think that organization and others are trying to change that. So it's indefinite. So once you're a veteran, you're always a veteran. Okay, so this is show you what kind of when I came aboard, and I did a lot of planning, very detailed planning. So I did the same thing. I came aboard, and Nate really kind of provided an umbrella. So he said, take this first year, just figure out really how to do it. Because I didn't have anything precedent followed. No one, I didn't take over somebody. There's no type of transition handbook. There's no files on the computer from the average coordinator. So I took some time to get out and meet staff. So we're still kind of in COVID, so that was a little bit tricky. Took me bonkers when I couldn't see people on Teams meetings or Zooms, like treating panel. Like I can see who you are, and start learning your face. And then start understand, Washington State geographically, understand, different communities, commodities where they lie. So it's, diverse as you go from east to west and north to south. And then I've never been stationed in Washington or in the northwest. So I have no idea, I live in Coeur d'Alene. So I kind of focused on North Idaho and Idaho for geography. So very steep learning curve, just understanding the organizations and agencies. So I started working on the database, get events, where's all opportunity for us to do outreach. And now started also, I mean, okay, there's materials that came from, the state office from in downtown Spokane. We moved to our new building, Spokane Valley, a couple years ago. There's stuff all over the place in the state office. There's stuff out in our field offices. So I did inventory all those items. So and I usually get back to the staff. Are you gonna take our stuff? And it's like, no, keep your stuff. We use it for outreach. Just keep asking when it's there. You have to, move it around, reallocate it, and then you'll get it back. So I didn't take anybody's items and say, hey, I'm gonna get you some new stuff because we had crappy tablecloths from 1979. Looks like appliances and grandparents' kitchen. So now we're developing a state outreach strategy. We have systems and processes in place. So I'm just going to keep moving forward. So the job description, all focused really on programs and initiatives. So you're sitting there, okay, education, you got to be a part of that. Careers, the pathways. So careers and pathways, the career and internship. That recruitment is really done by one person out west. So you got to take that, she's interested in, no one else wanting to do it. Well, that should be outreach. Because there's events, there's career fairs, job fairs, that we want to go to. So we say, hey, but you're not getting out, doing that outreach that we should do. It's like we'll take that workload from you. Just going to incorporate the outreach that we need to plan and coordinate at the state level. Earl Team Volunteer, our state senior admin, she was doing that, but she's busy because you're really supporting Orlean state conservation. So I was like, I'll take that and then I'll incorporate that into the outreach program. And so I became the state volunteer coordinator. The educational part, that's critical because staff is like, why are we hire people? Well, a couple different reasons. And also, I've never heard of the silver tsunami. Somebody mentioned it. I don't know if it's the same thing for conservation districts. I think someone from Part of Natural Resources, Washington State, brought it up. Basically, the federal government employees are getting older. And they're retired. Funny thing is, 15 years ago, I had a mentor reaching out to me, say, hey, consider federal government after retire because people are getting older and they're aging out. Well, that's part of it. The other part is that for some of our positions, they require a certain amount of credit hours for certain courses. And if you don't have those specific courses and writing out hours, guess what? You can't fill that position. So it's not a bad thing. It's quite good. Some positions are technical. We want to make sure people have the right education for those positions. And then public awareness. I'm not a big fan of state fairs. One, rides scare me because they get people put together. It's like, no riding those. Fair food makes me sick. And I don't like big crowd sometimes. Usually it's hot and like, wow. So, but they're important for just bring awareness to the general public. There's other festivals like we Saturday with the Spokane Pride Festival. So that's it's gotten bigger and bigger. But a lot of our staff had like 5 or 6 staff members go to it. Great event, but interactions with a lot of producers who are doing like organic and small scale urban ag. Farmers market is something we're now kind of getting into a little bit. So it's like, well, farmers, producers, they're all selling. It's like, well, there's other opportunities. Some of the other events, there's meetings that their farmers markets have in areas that we're doing a little bit more. And then sometimes you might have a producer that's selling at the farm market. You might just be visiting. So I think don't count out and not talking to someone. If you're assuming that they're all the farmers and producers in the area are the farmers market. Now, they might not be, or they are. So we're going to do a little bit engagement with the farmer markets, see how it works. Okay, so kind of we look at our outreach for programs, kind of break it down international events. Fish Migration Day was last year, happens every 2 years. So it's going to happen again here this next May. National events like an agriculture workshop, kind of big deal. A lot of people from all over the country, it's veterans, and also disabled folks. We have the outreach, it's the outreach coordinator for USDA veterans here from DC. So he's a speaker. We've never had regional events, say grain growers, and then our Washington Oregon Potato Conference. We'll learn a lot about the history between Washington and Idaho potato growers. I didn't admit that I lived in Idaho when I was there. So I work in Washington State. Of course, our state events and our fair state event is the Washington District Employees Conference, and then our local events. To me, that's our grassroots. That's like our where we need to be and emphasize those. Well, our most important is our regional conferences, the state conference. It's like, yes, weight is the most important, but after that, the next most important is like our crop forest, which is going right now, which has been a headache for me, because I had asked people who are really busy, like, it's really important we go to this, and yes, you might only talk to 25 producers in that field. But guess what? We're finding out that some producers who there's some misconceptions and myths out there. They think that you're not eligible or they were denied before. Well, guess what? There's a whole bunch of money, but you're eligible. Let's go sign up. So there's smaller events. Some of them are a little bit bigger. Lynn is on the 15th. So there's like 240 people going to be there. So, and it's diverse. I saw a lot of African American, I saw Sikhs. So I was going to see, literally pretty homogenous as far as the demographics, and it wasn't. A lot of women, and then you also have Whitney Powers, Dina Connor, she's going to be there speaking. The rest of the heads for the Grain Commission, and just sit there going to be there today as well. All right. Travel events. So that's something we're just taking as our state travel liaison. She had an accident a couple of weeks ago, so she can't fulfill her duties. So we're kind of absorbing some of those. And then special campaigns, so CSP. So we all the contracts we filled that we had. So now we're pushing to do more CSP. So we get more money in the hands of producers. So that's one reason we're pushing the platform so much, is because I think we're going to be displaying for our bucks. And then any type of special announcements, if there's an application deadline, we make sure the information there. Where is it? Let's see one. Okay. Here's an internship. So picture on the left is University of Idaho. I'm sorry. That's University of Idaho. Emily Pickron. She's our East Area team. She's a WSU alumni. So UI, WSU have their career fairs at the same time. So she's my go-to person for those events. And then the event to the right is Walla Walla Community College. So what are we doing there? Like, I don't know, but I'm going to network and they have other opportunities. Well, at that event is Walla Walla Community College as the Ag Center of Excellence. So they'll learn more that a lot of community colleges are accredited through WSU, and they have similar courses, social courses and classes. So now I can focus and target outreach. So we have a Pathways program, Scholars program, both underutilized. And then the other thing with some of the gov fairs, they have networking events. So I go talk to the assistant deans or the staff in various offices. Say, well, how's handshake work? And they, well, handshake is horrible. Only 2% of students actually look at it. So okay, so you can't really do the digital outreach with your job application. Where you're going to make your money at is those networking events, and then sending an email to professors so they get flyers for the job ready. So I'm doing that now. So anytime I can establish a network, like I have in the distro. So instead of looking at USA Jobs, which is anybody familiar with USA Jobs, if you are, okay, it's horrible. Like there's hieroglyphics. So you go, what does that hieroglyphic mean? You have to match the color. It's painful, especially if you're, I mean, imagine if you are graduating a hell of a lot of that. So we have that, but I have the job descriptions and point of contact. So if there's an engineering position, we include our state engineering. So I'm trying to get some more senior leadership. We go down to fall, WSU, and UI and have a networking line. If they don't want to go, I'll go and drink cheers. Military transition events. So a lot of installations have, actually all of them there, that's mandated by law. They have transition services. So we started going through the events, and I went through it myself a couple years ago. Okay, these are jobs, this is career opportunities. Well, then started I said, transition service members will be sitting in a room, they might have to sign with their name, where they're going to, and what kind of job. So I was sitting at Fairchild Air Force Base, and this small room, about 25 airmen, and 5 of them were starting farms. Okay, none of them start farms in Washington. That's okay. Well, at least I'd say in your life, yes, but maybe you're going to work for us. You can go start your avocado farm in New Mexico, looking at NRCS, maybe have inspiration. So fast forward a little, Naval Base Kitsap had a big event, and their person contacted Forest Service. It's a weird way this worked out, but they said we need to get information for service members who are going to go and fly. So I was like, all right, sign us up. And so we had our veteran special emphasis program manager. He went, and somebody else with him. It was a great event. So, and some of those service members, they like, Pacific Northwest, they love Washington, they're going to stay here and go to farming. All of them, we got some, potential applicants. All right. Our team volunteer program, I guess familiar with this. With these, okay. Prior to COVID, or after COVID hit, apparently it withered away, died. So I am trying to get it going, and some success, not as much as I want. So basically the program is if you're 14 years or older, you can apply. So it's a great opportunity for students in high school. I actually signed my son up. He's 14. He's going with me to Lynn to help out. I'm expecting the 10 to blow away. So he's going to have me chasing that just in case. Right. I did bribe him to say they're going to have some good barbecue and ice cream cookies. The food's good, so he's going to go. We're going to have baseball practice at night, so we're good. So, lots of I'll talk to audiences and say, okay, so you might not want to come, or decide to come and work for us, or you're trying to figure out which agency to go to, you're in college, you think you want to be conservationist, and try our team, see if that works out for you. It's not middle, you get paid for it. I use full swag, and you can pick the hours you want to work, where you want to work, and get some experience. You put it in your resume. So also tell like FFA, they got volunteer hours, get them here. So we can do individual sign up or groups. So here's the sales pitch to you guys. There's insurance issues sometimes. So as a federal agency, our insurance is covered under the Federal Tort Claims Act. So if someone is signed up as a routine volunteer, they get hurt or they break a car, guess what? They're covered under the Federal Tort Claims Act. As long as you discover his money, you can work with insurance things or pay for damages or medical. So if you're having an event, that's something that you can possibly, maybe your team volunteers for your event are covered under that insurance, Federal Claims Act. So it's something to keep in mind. Okay, education. So this is kind of tied to the careers and internship. Also, I think it's just good for everyone in this room that we educate our youth about conservation. And we'll talk about IUs, a lot of people environmental activists, like no one likes the guy or gal that use themselves for price painting. If there's some ink into what it doesn't help you, it makes people mad. If you want to make a difference, go conservation. I'm not saying you have to come work for NRCS. You go work for conservation districts. It doesn't have to be in this, that's where Washington State. So like you want to get early. And then some of the kids, they may go and farming themselves or ag, with their own land. So just getting the word out through FFA. So we signed up to be title sponsor for the environmental and natural resources career development event. That's in Kashmir. So as staff go out there, I went there. It's a beautiful day. They're out there doing NANAB, let's do geometry. I walk away and we go identify some animals and some plants. There's some civil analysis, some wastewater, a great event. And then they got into the state convention. Keith, our assistant state con, spoke for about 3 minutes. Very go a lot more with high school career events. I think those are important from the underserved communities where they're not getting the resources. So District 9 outreach person for the school district contacted Orleans. Hey, let's do this. So we went out there. We went to Mattawa. Never been at Mattawa before. So there again, that's another. It's out there. So we did their career fair. Great events. So in our staff, so they want to do guest speakers. I think we had Lynn Kuat. She's a district conservation. She came out and judged or did some work with Biothlon. So I found that out like after we had our meeting. So found out our newsletter. There's a picture there. And how are you doing? She didn't tell us, so but it was a nice surprise.
And John from Renton came
Yes.
up and did a soil workshop.
Okay, good. So I was like, so I think she didn't think that was outreach. I'm like, oh, that's outreach. And then public awareness, mentioned that earlier. Our plant material center in Pullman had a open house, a field day, so that was a great event. So we advertised that. Okay, so you probably wondered, is that full of balls right there? You might take a guess. Buy you a beer. Yes.
It's some sort of fan force thing.
Yes, you were the beer. Okay.
How did I keep?
What?
Is Katie told you?
Okay, well, I didn't have any rules. Okay, we get some beer. So last year for the World Fish Migration Day, we wanted to get a some type of display and some video like really cool booth and something interactive. Okay, so I sat down with some PowerPoint and made like, going to do this. We ended up not going, long story short. So the topic came up again. I think the salmon summit and then return to the river. The salmon summit, I was like, okay, you know what? It's like I got this idea for an obstacle course. So the kids run through it, and they're like the salmon, so they experience the life of a migratory fish. It's really great. I probably have some more items in my garage. It's gonna be low cost. It's like, we'll just see if it works out. So basically, I had to buy some pool noodles and it's kind of like rough water. My daughter had a play, so Willy Wonka. So the squirrels, had some nuts that were left over, had some boulders in the water. Had some lumber. You can't see it, lumber in my garage, built a dam. So I didn't get anywhere in the garage. So that's some great paint that was left there from another project. Then I didn't pay for a little ladder where you do like, leg work in the football team or soccer. So that was like the salmon ladder. Then some PVC pipe, so some engineer tape from engineers in the office. There's a waterfall. There's a bear there. They put bears in there. You have predatory species or eat the fish. I didn't have any. I kind of looked for like inflatable trees for repairing. I didn't find any, but we're going to improve upon it. And then in there, the finish line, a pool and balls in it. So guess what? We made it back home. That gets long. Congratulations. So we're going to probably reintroduce that. So maybe get something for more professionally done. So I was like, be rockets in my garage, put things together. It's fun. Katie said it was, the kids had fun. Had about 100 or 200 kids come through. Okay, this is a boring slide, so we're all probably some trouble with all these slides. Prison learned yesterday. So first phase, like either I find a bid or staff lets me know. It's probably staff lets me know about 30% of the time. And then we add that to our average calendar, which I'll show in a minute. It's a monster Excel document. So if we decide to do the event, which is most of them we do, we try to at least, it goes to the coordination phase. So I contact the organizer, I get the calls. Okay, how long is it? I compare to other events. I make sure it's not what area does it get overwhelmed, or what level, or we have a speaker, all these other things. And then I start looking at getting resources, start paperwork, funding. Once the funding's approved, that's kind of like my trigger or criteria for putting like a confirm. So I may still be working with staffing, maybe not. Now it's time to get all the resources. I got a bunch of checklists, and then I'll do a lot of communications with staff. We're going there or the supervisors, make sure everybody's informed, and then I'll ship things out. So usually general rule is 9 days, only whatever shipped out. Something happened. UPS, we use mostly UPS, especially in winter. Some things that might be delayed 2 or 3 days with the snow. I don't know, UPS could strike one day. Our admin assistant here only get just 1 day, but she might be sick, might have performance, but that might be delayed. The 9 days you will buffer. Also gives time to have staff throughout the field. They can make offers there. So it gives me a little wiggle room. And then once the event's over, break down return materials. One thing I do at the end, I send that post-event survey, follow up with contacts. I like to send in thank yous. So they organize it, as much as possible. And I tell them, go meet the person who's organizing it, their staff, say, give them thanks. Okay. This is the event calendar. I am willing to share with people. There's some PEI, Pacific Education Institute, share with them. But there's some things I didn't know that the Washington Ag Educators Conference is happening this weekend. So they're kind of tracking. You should be. So this is just input from and we use a track, costs, all the restoration stuff, location. And then you can sort it, you can figure this, so you've got, let's see what's going on in East area, West area. So I thought this tool would be more useful than it is. I like it because I'm a geographer. I like maps. Well, some staff like it, especially in leadership. They might look at it, but probably not. But I didn't put this on the map. This is going to transition to an ArcGIS project. Be a geography guy, did a lot of work at ArcGIS when I was in school, and 3 years later, I haven't touched it. I do that, it doesn't make the same ArcGIS from a quarter century ago. Event survey. So I started doing this. I personally hate surveys, but they do serve a purpose. I asked one, they said, you know what, I need to start collecting this data from the get-go, because at some point someone's going to ask me for this information. Now, lo and behold, fast forward about 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, the national headquarters started asking for this data. So everything was already there. I put it together. So let's see, my counterparts in other states scrambling and how to get this information, but you should start collecting it earlier. So, Bookcase Storehouse is internal on our team. So basically all the different publications that we have internally, they're kind of catered specifically for Washington State. This is our national exhibit display. So I can order from our national headquarters, pop-up banners, these many pop-outs, tablecloths, all kinds of other items. Soul Health Tunnel. So ask a question about Soul Health Tunnel. It's going to be at the Spokane Interstate Fair in September, and it's going to be at like all the 4 fairs that are Snake River TV is going to be. So Benton, Franklin, Harfield, Columbia, and Walla Walla. So that should be fine. Hopefully, on positive. And also we have a distribution center. So we order a lot of materials from this distribution center. Some things are PDF only, so I send those out to our print center, or I print them in-house. And these are the same resources I inventoried. So this is a longer, but that's just a snapshot. That's my first bottom there, my first display. So I'm pretty proud of it. It was pretty good. So we send that to like some events that you see what your booth looks like, maybe your applications. That's what I use. And that's our green tablecloth. We now have nice blue ones. So I just the green's horrible. Best practices. Humans are more important than hardware. That's the Special Operations Forces truth. So I just it's stuck with me. I think it's important. I think our staff. I think the community of interest, conservation is important. I also want to just reassure everybody, AI is not going to replace us. I don't think AI is going to go to conservation. So, and then most importantly, our customers and clients that are good at that, our projects or programs. Full spectrum. When I go to bid, there's information about programs, education, careers, volunteers. So it's all there, just in case. Board acronyms. It's just lose people in meetings. So I'm going to speak up and say, I know what the acronym is. It's up there if you don't use that. Everyone's an outreach ambassador. Caveat that not everybody is a good outreach ambassador. Not everybody wants to be an outreach ambassador. So I know who ambassadors are, but I'm working on those who aren't to give them training or help with confidence. And really, like our new staff, sometimes they don't want to go out. So it's just not confident. Entire staff. So when I go to event, if I'm setting up, I'm out, lay things out, I'll step away, and that's when I find out who has obsessive compulsive disorder. So I say, hey, it's yours, it's your event, I'm just here to support you. Outreach therapeutic. Some people have told me that they love outreach because it gets them out of the office. So it's my therapy. They want to get out and talk to people. Share with agency, just a little world-class customer service and support. I think, hey, just to be the best, our best customer support to our clients, our community, and our partners. Type of logistics and resources. Trust-based relationships, that's everywhere. So if you're who you work for, your supervisor, your manager or supervisor, and then laterally your peers, your colleagues, and your agencies. Data feedback and atmosphere, that's important because these events, like how are we doing at agency? So I hear a lot of good success stories. Oh, NRCS is great, conservation districts are great. Every now and then I'll hear stories like, hey, NRCS screwed me up. So we want to know that. I'll go back, I'll share that information with our staff. For the most part, they're saying that. Recognize staff publicly. So if I get a kudos from someone from the event, share that with staff. Also share it with supervisors. And also kind of like keep a loose track on what we're doing for outreach so that in the year for awards, they can be recognized. It's a funding process. I figured that out for the staff. So if you're, you guys have a lot of grants, just kind of figure out that funding process, where you get your money for outreach, where it may be. It's critical. Just bureaucracy, I haven't had any meetings to my position. The only thing I ask people is to fill out that survey. I tell my that data goes up to our coordination quarters. They establish and also nurture network. So it's one thing establishing a network. So that's great. But you gotta keep it, keep nurturing that network and build that relationship. Okay. Other thing is, a booth is good. So if we get somebody to just be a panel member somewhere, that's even better. But keynote speaker is even, it's like a pinnacle of what we're trying to do a lot of times in the events. Not every event has a keynote speaker or structured that way. And then increasing our sponsorships because it's marketing and advertising. Event planning, you guys are planning outreach. Sometimes it's about 3 months out. It's about earliest you know event, the day, the schedule. Sometimes it's less than that. So, the numbers said thank you, and I'm being to collaborate. So I'll talk to anybody, network, and just try to do about opportunities. I can help you, or you can help me. Just never know what's going to happen. Then talk about some of those. So health tunnel. We're working on getting a soul health trailer. Oregon has 2, I think. And they want to say truck to pull it. So I'm excited about that because I like bigger trucks. But basically the ring simulator in there, the soul health thing. I've seen pictures of it. So that's something that we're more willing to share with you guys if there's an event to hey, come over, draw more attention from the people that are attending the event. And then with our additional manpower or personnel, we're going to increase our capabilities and capacities. So just keep you guys updated. And hang on a second that. Okay, so final thoughts, and then we go questions or whatever we can do it peer. I love what I'm doing. It's very similar to what I did in the military, which is kind of crazy. Love the great outdoors. Like I said, I get made fun of, but I'm going to go to work for Forest Service, but this is actually better. It's broader. I think what we're all doing, in Washington State is just. I can't say enough. I got a lot of respect. Producers out there, farmers and ranchers, and you guys. I did project management. I did contracts. Managed about $7 million of projects in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and other places in the world. Not as much money. It's a lot of work. And then you constantly deal with people. Yeah, sometimes it's good experiences. Sometimes people emotions get lost. So love over here. It's tremendous. So look forward to meeting more of you. As time goes on. And then come talk to me. We talked about earlier about some areas we can help out and support each other. So I got my business cards. Any questions?
Yeah, I think you're on the chat. It's kind of a long one.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you can just read it.
Yeah, totally. Under Renee's.
Oh, yeah. So so like I said, I do not turn down an event. We had one event that's canceled. And I was like, it got too big. There's some other issues too. I didn't warn people as I had to be prepared. The purpose of going to this event was to expand our networks, reach those communities that don't know about us, or don't know that we have services available to them. IRA, there's some staff that expect like, if we do more outreach, that means we're going to get more applications. If we get more applications, we're going to have to do more contracts. If we get more contracts, I'm going to have to work harder and longer. And it's like, well, yes, that's all. That's the problem that we want to have. Ideally, we're hoping our increased staffing, we also getting trained, it will catch up. It probably will. I think realistic, it's probably not. It's going to trail it. but especially our new staff now are worried about that. They're gonna get faster and faster with their work, we need more efficiencies. So that's how because it's something I think about, like, okay, yeah, we're doing this outreach, is it gonna increase our applications and contracts? It is, and that's why we're doing it. So now it's up to our leadership to figure out how we're gonna, get contracts done, meet deadlines, and but if you want to do conservation, you can save the planet, just climate change, that's what we have to do. And it's gonna be, I think, it's a lot of work, so, I have long hours sometimes. Sounds like, okay, you might not be working 9 to 5, there's a little bit overtime, so there's some things that we can do to address that, so. Any other questions?
I think that's the only one on there. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys.